preface for today's video is I might share some stuff, some honest points, some vulnerabilities. I want this video to highlight what I've been through and some rock bottom moments in my life. And they've been the moments that have actually allowed me to get interested in health and wellness and that sort of thing. I'll start by first saying I don't want you to necessarily do what I did. Everybody's got their own experiences. Everybody needs to process their own experiences the way they need to process their own experiences. And this is what's worked for me. And it has been the catalyst for me in setting myself up for my schooling, my career, and what has become my professional interests moving forward. So I'll start by introducing myself. My name is Ryan. I'm a doctor of physical therapy. I've been a physical therapist for 7 years now. And you might have been seeing some of my videos, some of my content that has been more focused around fitness style things. There's a reason for that, and we'll talk about it later in this video. I'm also a certified strength and conditioning coach, which is it's called a CSCS certification, and then a CrossFit level 2. So if you're listening to this video, welcome. If you're watching this video, here's my smiling face. My wife told me to smile. But I'm going to be sharing some moments that I've had to go through that have kind of shaped and allowed me to become who I am, and have shaped my why and my general direction that I am aiming at in the future for my career. And what I hope to do is cause a rift in the health and wellness space. We are in a serious crisis in America, and my purpose is to change that crisis. So what is the crisis? The crisis is healthcare spending. It's chronic pain. It's, as practitioners and providers, we're missing the low-hanging fruit that people have control of in regards to their health. I found this out very early on in my career as I learned that there isn't a template, there isn't a cookie cutter approach for bringing people what they value in their lives. And oftentimes people don't know things if they're not aware, right? And so I can't get mad at people for not knowing things, but I can be convicted myself if I'm not encouraging them in this direction. So we'll start there, and we'll talk about some rock bottoms. So when I was a 14-year-old athlete, I wanted nothing more in the entire world than to play lacrosse at Princeton University for Coach Bill Tierney. I've shared about this story before. I used to play in summer tournaments every single year from the age of 7 until the age of 14, and that's all I wanted to do. I was a 3-season lacrosse athlete. I also played multiple sports, multiple seasons out of the year. I was going really hard. I was an athlete. I was an academic guy. I love school. I love sports. And my days would look like, waking up at the crack of dawn, getting on the school bus with my lacrosse gear, going to school, and then getting a ride to practice. I would play summer ball down in Ocean City, Maryland area, and then Baltimore, Maryland, and then DC area and Northern Virginia. And so I would be practicing year round. I would have, in the winter, I would get a ride after school to practice. I would have practice like 3:30 to 6 o'clock, get home around 6 or 7 o'clock. I would do homework, eat dinner, go to bed late, rinse and repeat. And I used to do that 5 days a week. On the weekends, I would play in tournaments. So I would drive 2.5 hours, often 3 hours in the morning, and the crack of dawn Saturday. I'd play a tournament all day on Saturday, tournament all day on Sunday. Would come home Sunday afternoon after the playoffs, and then I would go to school and rinse and repeat. It was going really hard. So my freshman year, nothing really changed. I played football in the fall. My winter season, I was playing lacrosse. I was playing indoor lacrosse, and then my summer ball, obviously I was a freshman on the lacrosse team. So I was excited about my career, my future. I wanted to play Princeton University. I wanted to go to business school, and I wanted to, while I was getting a high-level business degree, play lacrosse for a very particular coach. This is a very strange kid, very driven kid. And I used to read magazines. I used to line all these things up, and the fact of the matter is I was very direct. And so that summer, after my freshman year, I would go to tournaments, right? And I started to have a little bit of left hip pain. And it was hip pain kind of in my inside groin area. And if if anybody knows, the hip's kind of a ball and socket. And so essentially, I went and got PT for what they thought was kind of a bursitis type issue, which is inflammation, which makes sense. You know, I told you my history, I told you my backstory. It makes sense. So, had a couple sessions of PT. This was my first ever exposure to severe pain, to physical therapy, and stuff seemed to be improving. And so that weekend, I went and played lacrosse in a tournament. And I remember sitting in the car on my way back from that tournament in just severe pain. I'd be sitting in the car for probably 25, 30 minutes on my way back from Baltimore. And I needed to get up. I had to have my dad pull over on the side of the road, and I had to get out of the car and straighten up and stand up. And so it was a little concerning. My dad that following week took me to get an x-ray. So we went to get a referral to get an x-ray, sat in the x-ray. They found out that ball and socket was starting to slip off a little bit. And if anybody is medically aware, that's called a slipped capital femoral epiphysis. So what that means is the growth plate on top of your femur looks kind of like this. And as that growth plate fuses when you get older, in a certain percentage of adolescence, very small percentage, there's a chance of that growth plate slipping off. And so mine was slipping off. Mine was starting to started to not unfused, but it was starting to get unaligned with the top of my femur, which is the long bone of the hip, which is the thigh bone, right? So that's not good. And I had an immediate referral to orthopedist up at AI DuPont Children's Hospital. And I was supposed to go there the following week. And I was put on crutches and said, be careful. That weekend, so 2 days before my appointment, I was up in Pennsylvania visiting family. I was on crutches. I was a stubborn 14-year-old kid going to Walmart with my family. It was raining, and you can imagine that it wasn't a good scenario. And so that leads me to my first rock bottom moment, in that I needed emergency hip surgery because of falling on these crutches because of the rain. The slip went from called a stable slip to an unstable slip. What that means is they were attached, and now they're starting to get unattached. And so it was an emergency. I got rushed down to AI DuPont Hospital. I was vomiting in pain. When people say I have 10 out of 10 pain, that is in my mind 10 out of 10 pain. Vomiting, could not bear weight, could not use my leg at all. I was in agonizing pain. And so after emergency surgery, I was basically told I may never play sports again, at least contact sports. I had to get 2 pins placed up through the side of my leg into to kind of attach that part of the bone back on top of the long bone of my leg. And it was a long recovery, to put it lightly, because what ended up happening was I was in a wheelchair my sophomore year of school. Sports were not even a priority at that point. I was in a wheelchair for about 4 weeks prior to that because I was only 10% weight bearing on my leg, which means if I'm 200 pounds, and I wasn't, I think I was like probably 130, 140. I'm only allowed to put like 10, 20 pounds of weight through that leg, right? If I was 200 pounds, I'd only be able to put 20 pounds of weight through that leg. Not a lot of force, right? So my life functionally changed at an incredible level. I went to therapy twice a week. I would go at 7 in the morning in the summer, and I would do extensive hour and a half of rehab. And it was a journey. I had to regain strength back in my hip. I would have follow-ups every 2 to 4 weeks, and they would eventually distance these follow-ups out. But yeah, I was essentially gaining weight bearing back, getting my strength back, and their concerns at that point were not playing sports. The concern was whether or not my hip bone was going to die because of a severing of the blood vessels to the top of the hip. So as a 14-year-old kid, a lot of uncertainties. I was in a wheelchair during a very psychologically difficult period of time as well. And so it was challenging. You know, it was not an easy year. Thank you for my faith. Thankful for there's a silver lining and there's purpose behind every difficulty that we go through. Because I spent a ton of time in therapy. Eventually I got weight bearing back. Eventually, I healed completely. And after that experience, I was able to really see a profession where which I was able to move around a lot. I was able to help people move around a lot. I was able to share with people my interest in physical health because I'd been through it myself. And I was able to give back to a place where I had been given everything back to. My college trajectory looked very, very different. I wasn't able to get recruited, obviously, because I couldn't play until my junior year. So a lot of my time in high school was spent on rehab and not playing the sport. And so my lens shifted tremendously. All of that was happening. I was in an athletic healthcare program at my school. I was taking a lot of courses on um, the physical body, anatomy, physiology. Is very interesting to me. You know, I'm a science kid. I love science. I love math. And I honestly was able to kind of shift my focus more in the lines of academics and was able to secure a scholarship to a 3.5+3 physical therapy school. I was very direct. I only applied to 2 schools. I got into 2 physical therapy programs, and I went with a place that I knew I could play lacrosse, I could get a good scholarship, and I could become a doctor of physical therapy in as short of a period of time as possible. So fast forward after all of that to my sophomore year of college, I ended up having to get another hip surgery. It was called a chondroplasty, where they go in, they take a chisel, and they basically reshape the hip joint to make it more congruent. So there's less friction, there's less chance of tissue irritation, and there's less chance of osteoarthritis. And what happens with osteoarthritis is the rubbing can actually cause calcification of bones and can cause the joint to move a little differently over the course of time, and we didn't want that. So the doctor preemptively did a surgery, and I sat out another year. And so I spent more time in therapy, more time at the trainers, more time kind of exposing myself to this world of physical therapy, the world that I hope to give back to. And again, was able to play again and finish physical therapy school. And so to highlight that moment of kind of seeing my dreams dash before my eyes, realizing I wasn't able to go to Princeton, realizing that I wasn't going to be able to pursue that dream of mine. I needed to shift focus. We have a lot of controllables in life, and this is kind of my point number one. We have a lot of controllables in life. We have moments where we feel like there's a lot out of our control, but when we really take a step back, there's a lot more in our control than we truly thought. When I lost the ability to play contact sports and saw that kind of dream go away very quickly, actually, in about a month from the injury to the surgery to all of this happening, I had to shift focus. And I could choose what I focus my energy and attention on. And so I chose to focus it on what is next. What is the next thing I can do? What's the next place I can allow myself to live in my fullest potential? Okay. And so that focus helped me get out of a rock bottom where I felt like I lost all purpose and all passion, and helped me refocus on physical therapy. Okay. So that's the first rock bottom. The second rock bottom is actually something I'm speaking on more recently. When I finished physical therapy school, I was in a place where I thought I would always be in the outpatient clinic. I thought I'd always be in sports orthopedics, working with athletes, that sort of place, right? And I still love that to this day. But when I took a job out of school, I started to learn very quickly that it wasn't where I wanted to give my attention and time that aligned with what I thought I was going to be as a physical therapist. When I was 14, I had that injury, right? And so what essentially happened was I worked a job. The paycheck was very, very exciting. Getting the degree, a lot of the stuff that happened right before that was very fast paced. I had to take a board exam. I had to pass the board exam, and a lot of studying went in behind the scenes. So a lot of this stuff was happening on the end of graduation. And so there's a lot of things happening. Took a job, paycheck started wearing off, and I started to realize, oh shoot, this is where my life will be. And it wasn't where I idealized myself as far as how I wanted to give back to the profession. When I was 14 years old, I was giving my hip back. I was giving my life back. And what I learned when I was in the clinical setting was I was seeing 2 to 4 patients an hour. I was kind of spinning a hamster wheel, and I'd find myself at 1 o'clock in the afternoon counting down how many patients I had till the end of the day. And my patients didn't deserve that. There was something wrong with me internally. There's something that I could control. I learned that earlier, right? There's something I could control about my situation that I wasn't controlling. So what did I need to do? And I'm a spirit-filled guy. I'm a faithful guy. I prayed and I said, Lord, I don't know what to do. I feel like I'm in a moment in my life where I've made a lot of these choices and they haven't lined up the way I thought they would. And I felt like the Lord said to me, you need to figure out, what's the environment where you best thrive and you best succeed, and how can you change your trajectory by taking the steps to put yourself in that environment. And I know myself, I'm a beach kid. I grew up by the beach. It was pretty simple. I wanted somewhere with a warmer climate. I wanted somewhere with an active population where I could learn as much as possible. And I wanted somewhere where that would push me. And so there was a short list of a few places. I visited one of them. The other one wasn't a possibility at the time. And I basically found the third one as the opportunity that I wanted to pursue. And so when I was when I was a new grad PT, I'd worked a job for a bit, and I wanted to then pursue this thing that became very exciting to me. I applied for a new license in a new state. I gained some business mentorship, and I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go and I'm going to put myself in this environment. I'm going to pursue the movement field like I've never pursued it before. I'm going to dabble in CrossFit. I'm going to continue to train and work out hard as I had been to this point, and I'm going to learn as much as possible. And I want to get into business for myself. And so I packed my car, I went to San Diego, and I set off on this new journey. When I was in San Diego, I had just the blessing of being around some incredible communities, an incredible church community, an incredible group of physicians and providers that I've been able to work with to kind of build up my cash clientele, because I worked pretty much private as a PT, and it became a dream come true, to be honest. Like I spent about 2 years building the business to the point where I was working full time for myself. I was able to leave some part-time jobs, and my entire life was in a position where I was like, man, this is fantastic. And this all came from a rock bottom. And so I'm sharing this because the rock bottom was in a place I never thought it would be. I thought, I'd take this job and I'd work here and it'd just be a great opportunity and a great place for me. It didn't end up panning out the way I thought. But what ended up happening was I actually talked myself out of it. I ended up taking the safe option rather than taking the obedient and faithful option. And I want to encourage somebody out there in that place. There's good and there's great. Great sometimes takes a little bit of strain, a little bit of stress in the short term to endure for the long term. Good becomes very comfortable and complacent. And so I want everyone to pursue their great. I can treat people well, seeing clients 2 to 4 clients an hour. I can do it very, very well. But I wanted the great option. I wanted the best option for me. And the best option for me I had formulated was cash PT, was one-on-one treatments. And I was doing so in the comfort of their home. So fast forward again to COVID-19. It was March of 2020. And I got to be honest, it was a pretty challenging season for me as a essential worker. I was in the home. I was direct one-on-one with clients. I was in their face. I was also working with some people that would be considered vulnerable population. And there were a lot of questions I had myself. I was 25 years old at the time, going on 26. And I felt very much in over my head. Again, I was a sole business owner. I was one person show, and I was navigating a lot of unknowns and uncertainties. And here's another rock bottom for you. I ended up working for about 4 months during COVID, and I was very, very anxious all the time. I could look externally and say, okay, I'm working for myself. I have everything put together. I've got everything figured out. I'm coaching a lot of lacrosse. I'm in a place where things are going well from the outside looking in, but internally I was very conflicted. Internally I was very I felt lost. I felt like I had built this for myself, and to be honest, there wasn't a lot of places I could feel surely confident. I felt like I started things too soon. I rushed things too fast, and I might have, but I had an opportunity. I actually flew back home for a short 3-day trip, and for anybody that knows, I mean, you don't just go and jump to from the west coast to the east coast for like a day and a half, and that's pretty much what I did. I went home, I visited family for a day and a half, I came back, and while that happened, I felt like I got some downloads. Like I said, I shared about my faith. The the entire plane flight back to Delaware from San Diego was writing. I felt like the Lord just said, get all this stuff that's in your head, all these questions you have, all these areas of lack of confidence, and just get them on paper. And I'm going to remind you, I felt like the Lord said this, I'm going to remind you who you are. I'm going to remind you who you are. And he started to bring up these moments, like these moments of trauma. Like as a kid growing up, you have all these moments that you felt like you could have done better, or you could have done worse, or you have these moments where you're bullied, or you have these moments where you've had teachers say things to you to affirm who you believe you are. And the Lord was showing me my belief, like who I was, and he was having me believe it. And I'm talking 15, 20 pages of writing front and back, 3 hours of a flight. He gave me very clear steps after that. He said, I want you to take your business, I want you to close it up. I want you to go up to LA and take a travel contract in physical therapy, which was happening at the time. There were a lot of opportunities to work in COVID units, working with people that are really sick up in major cities. And I was close by to Los Angeles, so I could have made it up there and worked. And then I want you to ship your stuff on a boat and come out to Honolulu. I want you to figure it out. And I was like, Lord, really? And so a few months later, that is essentially what I did. I again took the controllables of my story and of my situation, and I manipulated them to just be as obedient and as faithful as I could have been. And it didn't make a lot of sense at the time, but a rock bottom turned into a tremendous blessing. I moved to San Diego with the point of kind of changing the trajectory of my opinion of my life and my situation, and to really just add a root, fulfill a purpose. Moving to Honolulu, same thing, to be obedient and faithful and fulfilling a purpose. And so I share those 3 rock bottoms. I share the 14-year-old story, I share the story of my first job, and I share the story of shifting my business out of state in San Diego and coming to Hawaii for a few reasons. So my purpose has become bigger than physical therapy. It's become bigger than giving back to a place that I've previously given back to. I used to coach lacrosse. It came from the same place, giving back to a place that I'm giving back to. But what I've found is that the meshing of those purposes has kind of come together. I want to teach each and every one of you how to become the best physical, mental, and spiritual version that you could possibly be. I don't believe that physical health is merely just objectively physical. It's not just muscles, bones, and tendons. It's mental. It's what we know about our situation, like intellectually, what we intellectually know. And then spiritually, it's also our driving purpose, our inner belief, and what we lean on when times get tough. I'm a believer. I believe Jesus died on the cross for my sins, was raised from the dead to help me fulfill my purpose, to forgive my sins, and to allow me to live everlasting life when I die. I believe that. But that inner purpose and inner fuel and inner fire makes me want you all to understand that our time here, we're going to have ups and downs, but our time here from a bigger perspective is very, very limited. And I want to share that because physical health is one aspect. We're going to be athletes competitively for only a season of our life, but longitudinally, how are we setting ourselves up for success so we can live our best, most happy, and healthiest life right now? Okay, that's number one. Mentally, what are we feeding ourselves? What is our inputs? What are we giving ourselves as far as knowledge and information? Because that matters so much. If I'm getting the wrong information, I'm going to be implementing the wrong things. And so who we partner with in regards to our health, or whether it's doctors or internet information that we just digest through the news or social media, be very critical of those things, because it is your health, it is your walk on this earth that happens one time, and it matters so much. And the inputs eventually manifest to outputs. If I believe that drinking Clorox bleach is good for my health, and I drink Clorox bleach, I'm going to reap the benefits of drinking bleach. Does that make sense? It's a terrible, stark example, but that's what I'm getting at. If you believe that walking 5 minutes a day is enough for your health, enough for you to live longitudinally a good life, you're mistaken. You're mistaken. And so I want to partner with you. I want to put you in a position where you're going to be able to succeed. Okay. And then number 3 is spiritual well-being. Spiritual well-being. What do I mean by that? I mean, when you hit rock bottoms like I have in my life thus far, what do you lean on? If you try to lean on people, people sometimes let you down. If you lean on material things have superficial value, right? It's what we believe and desire deep down internally about what's going to happen to us and what we're here to do. Because each and every one of us has a unique gifting, a unique skill set, and we are chosen for a time such as this. If you're watching this video right now and you don't believe that you're chosen for a time such as this, I'm affirming it right now. You are positioned here for a reason and a time such as this. If you can't operate physically the way that you need to because of an ache or a pain or discomfort, or mentally, if you don't believe or know something about yourself that you need to believe and know about yourself, I'm going to help you with that. So this is Ryan here, sharing this video to share my purpose, to share my why, but also to share that the situation that we're in from a system standpoint needs to change. And it starts with us. It starts with this conversation. It starts with this story. And it starts with my passion and purpose and willingness to dedicate my time and energy to make everybody the best physical person, spiritual person, mental person that they need to be. And if you want to talk about granularly physical, we can talk about mobility, we can talk about pain. That's one aspect of the equation. But if you don't feel like you're talented, believe me in this. Anybody that has set their mind to something and performed something consistently over time has the ability to get the result that they desire. Talent is only one part of the equation. We're all gifted, we're all called. And this is Ryan. Hope this story resonates. If it resonates, if anything you want me to expand upon, you can drop it in the comments below. I'm down to share this stuff. I've been very open about it. But I want to kind of open up the envelope a little bit more, because there hasn't been a platform that I've been able to truly share this on until now. So thank you all, and have a blessed rest of your day.